Hi, I did my project on a movie called Four Good Days. Four Good Days is about Molly, who is a heroin addict. Um, Molly shows up to her mom's house a year and a half after not being found or seen or heard from. She left her abusive heroin addict boyfriend. She tells her mom she wants to get sober. Her mom doesn't believe her, doesn't allow her in the house. Trust has been broken at this point. Molly's going on 10 years of this addiction. Um, Molly sleeps outside of the house that evening, and the next morning, her mom decides to take her to detox. This is Molly's 14th time going to detox. And she does it. She does the 3 days that Medicaid pays for. After that, they get seen by a doctor who offers medication to Molly that basically gets injected into you every 30 days. And what it does is it blocks you from being able to do any sort of substance abuse. Your body won't be able to take it. It'll basically reject it. And it helps people become sober. But in order to take this drug, you have to be clean for a full week. At this point, Molly has only gone 3 days through detox at the detox center. So that's why it's called 4 Good Days. She needs to make it 4 more days of sobriety in order to have a shot at actually staying sober. So, why work with this family? Multiple people are affected by Molly's addiction. Her mother, who loves her, wants the best for her, is one of the main people in her lives who never left. She has a dad, but he's pretty absent at this point due to the lack of trust, no faith. He's given up hope on, he loves her. Just, it's been a decade. He's having a hard time. And her sister is also affected because of Molly's addiction. Her parents have spent so much of their time trying to help and save her that simply her accomplishments that her sister has made in her life go unacknowledged. She feels very unseen. And she has a stepdad along with 2 children, a boy and a girl, who have, of course, an absent mother in their lives. And the father of her children, who, raised their children on their own, who doesn't have much support. The family system, all trust for Molly is gone. She has now been in rehab 14 times. She's pawned family heirlooms like her grandmother's engagement ring. Wallets and expensive items are hidden whenever Molly does come into someone's home or around them. They've learned their lesson, basically, to hide these things from her. This addiction started when Molly was 18, still in high school, got in a ski accident, was prescribed 75 oxycodone pills. Her parents argue frequently about with what little communication they have, but when they do, it's usually arguing about who is to blame for their daughter getting this addiction since she was still, in high school, in their home, in their care. I think structural and strategic therapy aims to resolve the presenting problem, reframing a problem to change the belief. And I talk about this structural and strategic therapy because Mom, at the time of Molly getting her addiction, was not happy in her marriage with Dad. So she left the house, and when this accident took place, she wasn't there, she wasn't present, and that's where she blames herself. And I think reframing it to letting her see that this would have happened, with or without Mom being there, and letting her see that she's now Molly's biggest support system that she has, instead of her just constantly knocking herself for something that happened over a decade ago. It's out of her control. What makes a difference in treatment? Pointing out their strengths. Using drugs, before Molly was using drugs, she was an athlete. She was, up there academically. And she was a loving and caring mother and wife. She had so many things that she had done before the addiction. Even after the addiction, she would get sober, became a great mom, great wife, and fell back. But pointing out what she did during the times of sobriety that were great for her, that, she loves her children, she adores them. Those are her, best things in her life at this time. So pointing out how great it is that she brought these children into the world. For chapter 4, basic skills, I think establishing ground rules in therapy with this family would be a necessity, mostly because Molly's mom tends to speak over her because the lack of trust is not there. So her mom could get very anxious and overwhelmed with thinking that Molly's lying, because she has, and she does. So even when Molly is telling the truth, she's not being heard, which can lead to the lying. So I think something I would definitely want to establish is don't speak over one another. And don't speak for one another would be a big thing, along with try to avoid sighing or eye rolling or no non-verbal gestures or, facial expressions. Assessing motivation. I think Molly's in the contemplation stage. She knows what she needs to do to get to her sobriety, which is stay sober these 4 days, right? It's a matter of her taking the steps to do it. So I think she's definitely contemplating. I think in the show she begins to contemplate a lot when she goes to speak to a group of teenagers. One of her old high school teachers says, I've been rooting for you. I've been wanting the best for you. Now that you're doing better, would you like to come talk to these students? And she does. But when you never experience something, or you're that young, like in high school, you don't sometimes realize how, the things that you say to people, how it can affect them, especially when they're trying to talk to you about such a serious subject. And I think some of the things that were said to her, like, just stop. Like, I would never let myself get that far, were some of the things that the students said to her. after leaving, she gave such a beautiful speech and motivational, but I think that it made her second guess her path that she was going on, that she had done so well on for, I think, about 5 days at this point. So she made it about 5 days, including the 3 detox and then the 2 days at home. They were still waiting for the doctor's appointment to go get the medication. Chapter 6, making measurable goals. I think Molly and the father of her children could definitely make measurable goals to slowly bring her back into her children's lives. We see it at the end of the movie where she says, he wants me to come watch them on Friday. I think it's great. He's beginning to trust me, slowly taking steps, not just throwing her back into their life or just jumping to she's completely got everything worked out. I think not only is that good for her, but for the children and for dad's peace of mind, that they take a step at a time. Maybe she goes with grandma to watch the kids, and then you move on to just individually for a few hours, and then on her own, and then you go a whole day, and then that goes to outings and being out and about, creating a goal and maybe a time frame on how to get there. And the ups and downs. I would want to make it clear that it's normal for setbacks, in therapy. It's not all, peaches and cream all the time. I would stay calm and patient with the client and not make them feel judged or humiliated that they did progress in therapy and then maybe things set them back along the line. That's, I don't want to say okay, but it's normal. It happens. It's most likely going to happen. It's okay to not have everything go right after making progress. And I think Molly shows that, she was doing it right. She was there. She was one day away from getting the shot when the lying began. And then the lying led to her, stealing her mother's money, which led to that her mother worked very hard to make sure she was never around money, but she's human, and which led to her scoring again at a drug house, which led to her leaving her mom's house and using again. Lastly, ending treatment. How is the new family different than the old one? When later you see Molly is asked the same question that she was asked when she was using heavily at the end of the movie, she's asked again, and which has to do with her doctor's appointment to go get the medication. Molly lied previously to prolong it from happening. This time, she's like, oh yeah, I talked to them, but I'm gonna go on Monday. And her mom pauses, like, maybe for a second. She was like, do I have to not trust what she's saying? And you can see in her face the peace she had that Molly had made this progress so that she doesn't have to think, is my daughter lying to me right now? Is my daughter using again? Are we going to go back through it again? She had a peace of mind. She said, okay, all right. So they had grown tremendously through their progress with one another and working with one another, and constantly working on the sobriety aspects of everything. And that is my intake on 4 Good Days. Thanks.